good to see you all, but it is impossible to ignore that one of the leaders of the intelligence community is not here with us today. The President's firing of FBI Director Comey Tuesday night was a shocking development. The timing of Director Comey's dismissal, to me and to many members on this committee on both sides of the aisle, is especially troubling. He was leading an active counterintelligence investigation into any links between the Trump campaign and the Russian government or its representatives, and whether there was any coordination between the campaign and Russia's efforts to interfere in our election. For many people, including myself, it's hard to avoid the conclusion that the President's decision to remove Director Comey was related to this investigation, and that is truly unacceptable. We were scheduled to hear directly from Director Comey today in open session. We and the American people were supposed to hear straight from the individual responsible for the FBI investigation. We anticipated asking Director Comey a series of questions about his actions and the actions of the FBI in terms of looking into which Trump associates, if any, and some of their actions during the campaign as it relates to the Russians. However, President Trump's actions this week cost us an opportunity to get at the truth, at least for today. You may wonder a little bit how seriously I know the White House continues to dismiss this investigation. I point out simply for the record the front page of the New York Times, which shows a picture of clearly an administration that doesn't take this investigation too seriously. It is important to restate the critical importance of protecting the independence and integrity of federal law enforcement. This is central to maintaining the confidence of the American people in principle that all Americans, no matter how powerful, are accountable before the law. The President's actions have the potential to undermine that confidence, and that should be deeply concerning, no matter which political party you belong to. This week's remarkable developments make our committee's investigation into Russia's influence on the 2016 U.S. presidential election even more important. And while it is clear to me now more than ever that an independent special counsel must be appointed, make no mistake, our committee will get to the bottom of what happened during the 2016 presidential election. And again, I want to compliment the chairman on his work in this effort. We will not be deterred from getting to the truth. These actions will do nothing to undermine our resolve to follow the evidence wherever it leads. We hope to speak to Mr. Comey, and we'll speak to anyone and everyone that has something to offer in this investigation. And Mr. McCabe, well, I didn't necessarily expect to see you here today, and we don't know how long you'll be acting FBI director. But while I will adhere to what the chairman has indicated in terms of the line of questioning, I will want to make sure my first question for you, even in this public setting, will be for you to assure the committee that if you come under any political influence from the White House or others to squash this investigation or impede it in any way, that you'll let the committee know. This investigation's had its ups and downs, and again, some, including myself, sometimes have been frustrated with the pace. We will no doubt face other challenges in the future. But ups and downs and bumps sometimes is how bipartisanship works. It's a constant struggle, but one worth making, and I'm proud of the way members of this committee from both sides of the aisle have conducted themselves in one of the most challenging political environments we've ever seen. At the same time, Chairman Burr and I have put this investigation on what we believe to be a solid bipartisan footing with the shared goal of getting the truth. In spite of the events of the last 24 hours, I intend to maintain our committee's focus on the investigation. Indeed, the recent actions only increase the burden of responsibility on all of us to ensure that we live up to this challenge and to uncover the truth wherever that leads. There is obviously consensus agreement among the U.S. intelligence community that Russia massively intervened with active measures in the 2016 presidential elections. Nor do I imagine that any member of this committee was surprised to see the exact same Russian playbook just being run during the French elections that just took place last weekend. And no one should forget, back in mid-2015, Director Coates, I had some of the folks in from the German services recently, that there was a hacking into the German Bundestag. It's fair to say that Germans should anticipate seeing more cyber attacks directed against their elected officials with their upcoming national elections in September. In short, Russia's direct interference in democratic processes around the globe is a direct assault that we must work on together, and is clearly one of the top worldwide threats. That being said, gentlemen, I want to start again by thanking you for your service to the nation. I want to particularly note that Director Coates, who is testifying before this committee in the first time since his confirmation. Dan, I know that you and Marcia were ready for retirement, and I thank you both for being willing to serve your country one more time. I also want to recognize the men and women who you represent here today. These thousands of dedicated intelligence professionals toil in the shadows, put their lives on the line, and make sacrifices most of us will never know in order to keep our country safe. I also want to make sure they know that I appreciate their efforts and am proud to represent them not only as the Vice Chair of the Intelligence Committee, but as a senator from Virginia, where so many of those intelligence professionals lead. This committee's annual worldwide threat hearing is an important opportunity to review the threats and challenges we face as a nation. Obviously, these threats continue to multiply. As the world becomes more complex and challenging, good intelligence gives our policymakers and national leaders a heads up on the challenges they need to address. The intelligence community, in many ways, is our nation's early warning system. However, a fire alarm only works if you pay attention to it. You cannot ignore it simply because you don't like what it's telling you. Similarly, we need to make sure that all our policymakers pay attention to the warnings provided by you, the independent, nonpartisan intelligence professionals. Since the Second World War, America has relied, as we all know, on a global systems of alliances, institutions, and norms to ensure our stability and prosperity. Today, many challenges threaten that system that has been built up over the last 70 years. As the Chairman mentioned, countries like China and Russia are challenging many of the global institutions. They are, in many cases, seeking to undercut and delegitimize them. We must work together to stand vigilant against that threat. Similarly, rogue states, such as North Korea, have sought to undercut the global nonproliferation regime. Obviously, North Korea is one of the most pressing issues our country faces. And Admiral Rogers, as the Chairman mentioned, we all share enormous concern about both the upside and downside of new technologies and the asymmetrical threats that are posed by cyber and other technology actors. And I would add as well, Director Cardillo, I think we've discussed as well, our dominance in terms of overhead in many ways is a threat as well from emerging nations. Terrorist groups and extremists are also able to access a lot of these new technologies. And while ISIS in particular continues to suffer losses in Syria, Iraq, and Libya, unfortunately it continues to spread its hateful ideology through social media and encrypted communications. Gentlemen, I've only lightly touched on a few of the challenges we face. I look forward to the discussion we're about to have. But again, I thank you for being here and look forward to this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.